So, found something interesting this morning, afternoon, whatever time it is now. So, doing my limited social media run and looking at a case that popped up in the 13th judicial. It was over an arrest. From what I put together, the little bit that I was able to see, and I saw the body cam footage. The body cam footage that they showed, the portion of it that they showed in this case. This is in Greenwood County, and Gillette is prosecuting the attorney on this one. And not to get too much into, it wasn't the initial scene that this case was about. So there was an incident that was a DUI arrest stop, whatever. There were some things that would happen there in that DUI stop, whatever, that I don't necessarily agree with as far as protocol actions, actions taken by the police, that sort of thing. But it's not my, that's not my point of this video. Also, not the point of this court case. This court case was about interference charges in Greenwood County, 13th Judicial District, with Gillette is the prosecuting attorney. So this guy was going to get arrested, whatever. The person that he was with was making comments, basically discussing and questioning the police on as to why are you arresting him. It wasn't confrontational. It was a fairly friendly discourse, but obviously questioning the police officer's judgment. During that time, another individual had showed up on the scene, and what they were trying to establish, you can watch in the court case if you're able to pull it up. Come back to that. Is that they believe that the other person, the passenger in that vehicle, had been calling people up. It's amazing how, we have this culture shift idea, where it's like, man, if you're going to be involved with the cops, you might want to get as much people, as much eyes on, film, whatever. That's a thought experiment for another time. But anyway, so they were trying to establish some form of, okay, whatever. She called this person over. She called people over to watch. But they were trying to establish some sort of, they never outright said it, but malicious or even just the act of calling people to watch this interaction was trying to set up a situation for interference. Okay. So guy finishes his, I don't know if he took a breathalyzer or not. I missed that part of the video. I know he did standard DUI walk, that sort of stuff. Cop was telling him that if he wanted to take the blood test, he could, but it wouldn't be admissible in court. I don't know that. Anyone smarter than me wants to say that or not, feel free. But but trying to get him to take the blood test, but also saying that it wouldn't be admissible in court. And so I guess what had happened was they're kind of sitting at right about standard idea of a gas station sort of stop in southeast Kansas. They were kind of right in between the gas pumps and the building that you would go in. The person who was arrested for DUI and their passenger were kind of towards the back rear panel of this SUV, with the police officer discussing about how officer basically said, you are going to be arrested for DUI because you failed your field sobriety test. The passenger, the woman, was I wouldn't necessarily say arguing, but was in discourse about the fact that he's not drunk. I picked him to drive specifically because of anyone that was there. He was the sober one. He hasn't drank in hours. Regardless, not the point. But she was having discourse and questioning. Now this is the big part. And you're going to see this coming up more, especially out here in the 13th Judicial, especially you're seeing it right now in Greenwood County. You're going to see it here in Elk County. You've seen it in Elk County. You just didn't know that you've seen it because they haven't known how to frame it. But the woman was being critical of the police officer's judgment and perception on the case. And you can watch that moment. You can watch that moment that flips. As well, during that time, the individual walked up on the phone. They thought was filming him or not, whatever. Was behind them, 15 feet maybe. There was another officer next to him. And the officer that was making the arrest on the individual for DUI flipped a switch and placed both the witnesses, citizens that were secondary, tertiary, whatever to this incident under arrest for obstruction. I believe it was in 2015. There's a case, I think it's State versus EJJ, and it's out of Washington. And there's actually even more recent cases. I don't know if they go up to the Supreme Court or not level, but especially during the 2020 protests, de-arrests, all that sort of stuff. Do not de-arrest in Oregon, or not in Oregon, in Kansas, whether you believe you're wrongfully arrested or not. The state of Kansas does not believe in the Supreme Court's ruling on Bad Elk versus United States, and even resisting a wrongful arrest will get you arrested. Anyway, they can charge you for resisting even a wrongful arrest. Anyway, so in that incident, there was a minor juvenile. He was being critical of the police that were doing something else. He was cursing at them, being critical of them doing their job, all sorts of stuff. And essentially what the Supreme Court ruled was that you cannot be held, you cannot be charged with interference simply for being critical of a cop's performance. That was the basis. Now, there's a few things that are grouped into that case, but a big portion of that was simply questioning a police officer's judgment, the procedures that they use. Being critical of a cop is not enough to be considered interference or an arrestable offense. This comes back here to good old Elk County, because this is a case that is, again, like I said, being prosecuted by Gillette. I went to hop in there, was watching the feed of it. They had a live chat going, and someone had mentioned interference. I didn't see that part of the video. I was late watching the live stream. Normally they don't have comments open on these. So 13th Judicial, again, you're also now, pulled the entire thing in the middle, well, cutting off some of the comments. And yeah, you guys are not doing really good right now. But the judge, I will give her, was not buying a lot of what Jill was throwing out there. So lost my train of thought on that one. But Jill prosecuting for interference. Almost like this is going to become a more common thing, and it's a really interesting case. I hope that someone's able to get a copy of that video or a stream out there, but it specifically has precedence on a lot of the stuff that's going on in Elk County right now because of the extended period of time that Officer Love was going to charge myself, Nicole, Lawrence, accountability, dreaded rabble rouser. I don't know if Kansas was ever going to get an obstruction or interference charge, but the amount of time that it took them to decide whether or not they were actually going to charge us with that, even though they had said they were, and then they said that the paperwork was with the district or county attorney, whoever, you know, almost like it, you know, they needed to, do we have enough to be able to do this? Because they're trying it in other places. They're doing it right now. They're doing it right now, this court case in Greenwood County. Again, it's a DUI stop in Greenwood County, and the case isn't about necessarily the DUI stop. The case is about the obstruction, the interference. I keep saying obstruction. Normally in Oregon, that's what they will charge people with, obstruction versus interference. Shouldn't be giving any of them out here any ideas, but they won't arrest people for interference out in Oregon, because you have to actually interfere. You know, and I'm not even going to make the argument that it has to be some form of physical interference. There are other ways to interfere, but simply being critical of a police officer is not an arrestable offense. It is not interference. I can sit and watch a cop do their job, whether it's praise or whether it is being critical of them, and I can voice that as it's happening, you know? It's not interference. So, something to pay attention to, and something that I hope other people pick up and notice. Thank you.